Welcome to A Photographer's Life, the channel that takes you behind the curtain into the world of professional architectural photography. Join us now for an episode with one of America's premier architectural photographers. Today's broadcast is part 2 of a recent interview with veteran American architectural photographer, Barry Schwartz. Today's interview was conducted by AIAP Director Alan Blakely. We hope you enjoy the show. If you do, please let us know by liking this episode and subscribing to this channel. Now, on with the show.
So I have these other things that I was going to show about business.
Yeah,
Should we
let's
move
talk
on?
about that. Let's jump into that because I think
All
that's
right.
important. And you've taken the time to kind of give back as a photographer, as far some business acumen, and I think it's really valuable. So let's jump to that direction if you don't mind.
I certainly don't mind because I've prepared slides for just this moment.
Okay.
This was the last slide I showed. This was ASMP, which is where I learned a lot about business.
Yeah.
I also want to say that some of the things that I learned about business working for myself as a contractor were very similar. Business
Sure.
to photography. Business is business. So the contracts were a little bit different, but the basic contract, any basic contract or proposal is, I'm going to do this and you're going to pay me for that.
Right.
And then we're all going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets slightly more complicated, but that's really what it boils down to. So I want to mention that I give away this resource guide. It is completely non-comprehensive, but it's 28 pages
Wow.
of things, websites, software, including free software, trade associations, various websites, books, there's all kinds of stuff here.
Okay.
And I started this as a one-page PDF that I would give to my students at Pasadena City College the first time I taught a business class.
I see.
And it just grew. So this is circa 2023. I'm about to do an all-day workshop in Portland in November, early November. And so by then, hopefully I'll have a new version. It'll say circa 2024, but this is on my blog and you just download it. It's right there. It's easy to find.
Okay, great.
So this is typically the first slide or one of the first slides I ever show people when I teach, whether it's a workshop or a class. And this is really the real world. That is Oscar Wilde. There you go. So here's the imagined reality that many clients have about what it's like to be a photographer. It doesn't take long to see these percentages, and here's a more accurate assessment of what it's really like.
Exactly. Yeah.
And photographing 10%, that might be generous. I did put in 2% for eating and sleeping, but this is the world.
Editing and marketing. Absolutely.
That's it. Editing and marketing.
And depending on where you are in your career, those can shift.
They can shift quite a bit. And if you're like me and you do your own post, that editing could take a long time.
Yeah.
So there are various reasons. The biggest pain point for every photographer, as far as I can tell, is pricing.
Mm-hmm.
And because pricing is fluid, depending on who you are, where you live, what the job is. I mean, there's so many factors that go into it. There is no way to really figure out a rock solid way for pricing, but it is by no means a dark art, even though it seems like it.
Right.
So there are various ways to figure out what you can charge and what other people charge.
Mm-hmm.
Some photographers won't talk about it, but some photographers will talk about it a lot. So one of the greatest resources ever, in 2 respects, has been a photo editor. If you're not familiar with a photoeditor.com, stick it on your speed dial. So this is a guy who started a blog, a newsletter, where he was an anonymous photo editor. He didn't name himself, and he pulled back the curtain on editorial photography and the needs of an editorial photo editor. After he quit that job or lost that job, I'm not sure what happened. His name is Rob Haggard. He outed himself as the photo editor, and
Oh,
he did two things. He kept on doing the blog. He also has a website company, and to be completely transparent, that's where my website is.
mm-hmm.
It's called Photofolio. It's very good. But he kept doing this blog. And now he shifted a lot of it, not only on the blog, but it's on Instagram.
Okay.
So very easy to find. And he started, there are two things that he did. I'm going to show you the second one in a minute, but in the last year or two, he started this thing, photographers, how much do you make? He's also got crew, how much do you make? And photo editors, how much do you make? And he asks them, they're all anonymous, to describe. He says, here's who they are. In this case, for those who can't read this because you're on a phone, a 43-year-old commercial photographer with a focus on architecture and interiors with 15 years experience based in Ottawa, Canada. Here's his gross and net for 2023. This is, who reveals this stuff? This is insanely wonderful, right? And then they write a little essay or short essay or a long essay. You know, he has prompts that he asks them. So in this case, it's a photo editor. He's saying, my income is about 80% from interior and architecture, 20% from events, portraits, and other commercial work. You know, I would say that's kind of standard for myself in some years too.
Okay.
Talks about who his clients are. He talks about his overhead. They can be very detailed about how they run their business and where they have their business and all these kinds of things. It's spectacularly valuable gold. There's many of these.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Never been exposed to this. This is great.
It is really astounding. So for those of you that shoot other kinds of work, there are other kinds of photographers there. I obviously, for the purposes of this interview, I picked somebody that does a lot of architecture.
Yeah.
So the other bit of gold that a photo editor provides is from Wonderful Machine. And another truth in advertising, I'm a member of Wonderful Machine. This is a kind of unusual agency where you pay them a fee per month and they promote you in various kinds of ways. But one of the things that they do, which completely intersects with what a photo editor is doing, is transparency in how businesses work. And one of the ways that Wonderful Machine does this is they reveal once a month or so on a photo editor what they call pricing and negotiating. So if you go to a photo editor it's a blog, it's set up like a blog. You go under categories and look for pricing and negotiating. There are, I believe, over 150 of these now. And they show there's a description of what the gig is. There's a description of how they figured out how to price it. And then they show the invoice or the proposal, and sometimes several versions of it. And they tell you at the end if the photographer got the gig or not. I'd say 90% of the time the photographer gets the gig. Those are the ones that they show. But they show you the complete contract. You know, obviously the names have been redacted. You don't know who the photographer is. You don't know who the client is. But the logic that went into the thing is right there. So this is...
It's really valuable.
It's unbelievable. I urge you, whether you're an emerging photographer, a student, or like the rest of us, a mid-career professional who was puzzling how to price things, I really felt much calmer about raising my prices. Part because of this.
Yeah.
A lot of people raised their prices coming out of the pandemic, as opposed to what you would think would be the opposite. And I felt much more secure about doing that
I think in one of our discussions with AIAP, we talked about how many of us had raised our prices, some very significantly, in 2022, 2023. So
yeah, it's crazy. Everything's gone up. Why should we not? I mean, we have bills like everybody else.
Exactly. Yes.
So
That's great.
So these are two of the resources I just love to present.
Yeah.
I go into more depth in my workshops, obviously, but it doesn't take much to figure out what this is worth.
Sure.
You'll notice, by the way, here on the Insta, this is liked by 1,025 people, so we get some coverage. So what does it take to be a business person? There's really basically three things, I think. And notice I'm saying business person, not photographer. We are business people, we're entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs, or solopreneurs, if you want to be up to date. Those are the three things. Pretty basic. But without people skills, you got nothing.
That's so true.
Yeah. That's the most important one.
Yeah, it's kind of a three-legged stool that you need them all.
You need them all. I don't think this guy in the thing here is a photographer, because I believe this predates photography, but it sure feels like this sometimes when you're dragging all this equipment around.
Yeah.
Other thing too that we all have to remember, and I have to remember this too, this is not just for students, is photography is a commodity, but we are not. And I see other photographers sometimes treating assistants like they're a commodity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can't do that. Bad karma.
Yeah.
Again, this is kind of what it boils down to. Everybody's got to be happy at the end of a negotiation.
Yeah.
And again, people skills. People want to work with people they like, and there's a certain amount of theater in this, and that's okay. That's the working world. If you have an independent income, you don't have to be nice. Although, God help you.
You should.
You should be. It's a horrible way to live.
Yeah.
So here's the, negotiating. It's theater, it's relationships, but you have to align with your client. You have to know your cost, but their budget, what you're worth, what do they need? They got to be happy. You got to be happy. I mean, this may seem like it's a little too simple, but I don't think so.
Not at all. No. And if those things don't align, then it's not going to work for either of you. So
yeah,
and not every situation works.
No, and I think the other thing about this too is, sometimes it's just not going to work. You're just going to do your best. You'll be the nicest person. You're going to make the most beautiful photos. You're going to be the fair in your pricing and quick delivery and all the rest, and people still not going to get it. So you can't take it personally.
No.
But one of the things that to understand also is that, and this is what car companies and big retail companies understand, the most expensive part of marketing is getting your customer. So rather than having 25 customers who hire you once a year, you want 5 customers who hire you 25 times a year.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It gets easier every time you shoot for them. And that's what they want too. It's like a mechanic.
Yeah, they have a level of comfort that they need as well. And so it's good for both sides on that.
Yeah. If you find a mechanic or a plumber that you like, that does good work, you're going to be really loyal to them.
Sure.
So anyway, so we're not going to do a deep dive. When I taught college classes, I spent 2 days just on contracts.
Oh, okay.
Right. But how I kind of suggest doing this is the estimate proposal looks exactly the same as whatever the agreement and contract is.
Yeah.
And the reason for that in the end is that the person that writes you the check may never have been involved in any of the negotiating, doesn't know or care what you did, but they need to know what the payment situation is and what they're getting paid for and what the licensing is for.
Right.
The other reason for this is that occasionally I'll get and everybody goes through this, you get contacted by the marketing department that is where nobody that you ever dealt with is the same person 5 or 10 years later. And one of the ways they can find you is through your metadata in your photo, but it's also through the contracts.
Yes. Yeah.
And so you're leaving money on the table by not making everything as completely transparent as possible. The other part of making it very transparent is that once you've got a signature on that line everybody now has agreed to it. So they can't backtrack and say, well, this is not what we thought we were going to get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
And these are
and,
such
and
simple steps, but so many photographers
steps.
don't take them.
Yeah. And it also holds our feet to the fire. You know,
Yeah.
we have to produce what we've agreed to produce.
Mm-hmm.
So, and sometimes, frankly, I forget. And especially some jobs, I've got a job now with a lovely company I really love out of Texas, and I'm waiting for a shot list to finish up the job. We spent 2 days on site.
Mm.
We're now going on 2 months. So I occasionally have to go back and go, well, what did we agreed for me to do?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I'm not trashing this company. I love them. They were great. But these things happen.
They do. Yeah.
So this is just a version of my contract.
Mm-hmm.
This is my template that I use, and I can modify this very quickly and very easily. I have a version of this that I give away to my students, and I'll give away to anybody that's interested.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Word doc that has a lot more notes on it than this does, because I don't need those notes. But I try to keep my contracts pretty simple and easy to understand.
Yeah.
When I first started, I had a 4 or 5 page contract, and
Yeah.
it would scare
me
me. So it's down to 2 pages. This is the front. This is where the meat is, and then this is the back,
Mm-hmm.
which is the terms and conditions. And you have to know what's on this, because occasionally clients will actually, or potential clients will read it, and they will say, "Can you take this out, or can we modify this?" And you have to
Mm-hmm.
be ready to do that.
Yeah. And it's not, I mean, at least for me, terms and conditions are not set in stone.
No.
I'm happy to negotiate. I can, I'll shoot on just about any terms but the price gets adjusted. So
Yeah. I mean, and also you have to be willing to, I mean, one of the things that came out of the pandemic was I now have a force majeure clause in there that I
Mhm.
had versions of it, but it wasn't called force majeure. And so force majeure is, for those who don't know, is um, a problem that nobody is at fault for, the
Mhm.
client or you. Like, for instance, a pandemic.
Yes.
And so you have to be able to, everybody has to be able to cancel or delay or whatever, modify the shoot based on um, acts of God. It's the old term, and it's now in the force
Mhm.
majeure.
Things happen. So
Things happen. Yeah. But I also have other things in here. If you cancel within a day of the shoot, any expenses will be paid. Because if
absolutely.
I have an assistant, they're not going to be able to rebook.
Mhm.
I owe them money. I don't have to pay them, but it would be evil not to if I ever want to use them again, or if I've rented equipment or
Or
paid
book
for a
travel or
hotel.
whatever.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So this also not only holds my feet to the fire, it holds the client's feet to the fire. Like, don't
Mhm.
just play around. This is serious. We're doing a job here.
Yeah.
And I just went through this with somebody, and they were very unhappy that I would
Mm.
not remove this. I explained to them, I said, I'm going to have an assistant on this job, and this is what it takes. Video is a new thing. Video is also part of flying a drone.
Yeah.
You don't really have to know how to do it depending on the gig. But this is affecting all of us, not just architectural photographers,
Sure.
editorial people that do editorial work, weddings, obviously, been that way for a long time, commercial work of all kinds.
Mhm.
So this is just I go, obviously, in all these things, I go into far more depth, but we don't have time for that here. But I've taught myself video, architectural video, and how to do my own processing because I have control issues. And
Mm.
so it kind of broke my brain, but I'm really happy that I know how to do it. It's not that bad.
No, that's great.
Yeah. And I think if you do your own post-processing, you have a leg up in doing the video processing too.
Mhm. Sure.
And so the fine art world is something that a lot of people are interested in. And in fact, there's architectural photographs that enter into the fine art world,
Mhm.
or people that do other kinds of work. So it's a whole other universe, but it is a business, and it has its own little rules and what I call culture.
Yes.
So It's possible to understand it. It's not a black box. In any business, this is your kind of key allies. I love this photo, by the way, because it's obviously a plane that's crashed, but the guy has survived, and it's upside down. So,
Oh, man.
Just as an aside here, everything that I use on these kinds of workshops that are on video are in the public domain.
Hmm.
Because I'm very cognizant about copyright,
Yeah.
as we all should be.
Sure.
So there's a wealth of material out there for those of you who like fooling around with this kind of thing. But anyway, there's this photo. I have no memory of where I got it. Possibly the Library of Congress. So this is your key allies: your lawyers, your accountants, your insurance, and boy, accountants. It doesn't matter what you pay them; you're going to save money on taxes.
You can't. I mean, there's not any of these that you can scrimp on. You've
No.
really got to do it right.
You got to do it
Or
right.
it'll come
And
back to bite you.
yeah, yeah. And in fact, the people I use the least are the lawyers, but you got to have one in your pocket. I mean, that's me. Other people, not so much. I'm very comfortable with working on contracts, but
Mhm.
not everybody is. So they will have
Yeah.
lawyers review their contract. Yeah.
Well, and if you get into situations of copyright and licensing, then you've got to have somebody who is in your corner there.
Oh my God. Yes. Oh yes. So one of the things you need to be able to do is understand metadata, and there's several different kinds of metadata. I know this seems very basic, but sometimes it's important.
Mhm.
It's also worth noting the last thing here, sad fact, all metadata can be stripped.
Yeah.
Anything you put on social media, that metadata is gone. There's nothing
Mhm.
you can do about it. And that includes the title of the photograph. So
Right.
it's just gone. One of the things I talk about is the metadata that's in a website. And this
Mhm.
is the thing that helps you get found. And these are really basic things. This is not difficult to understand in any way.
No.
But the main ones are title, the keywords, the description, and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Very simple to do. It's very easy now. If you have a website on Weebly, or WordPress or anything that you're managing yourself, very easy to insert this information. You do not need to be a coder, but this is the code. And this is what Google, who's the 800-pound gorilla of code, looks at. And when
Yeah.
you do a search for anything, this is what you see in the search results. If you're looking for beach balls, there are keywords and descriptions and titles. That's what pops up.
Mhm. Yeah. You've got to have at least some basic knowledge of what this is all about in order to have a successful website.
Yeah, this is SEO. This is exactly what SEO is.
Yeah.
Can be slightly more complicated than this, but this is the basics of it. All stems from here. This is the other kind of metadata. So this is the metadata that goes into the photo. And so there's an immense amount of information you can put in. You don't have to. But when I ingest, I'm a Lightroom person, but you can do this in Capture One, anything. When I ingest photos from the card, and certainly when it goes back, it's in any of the formats that I have on my hard drives. The basic metadata of who I am, how to get a hold of me, my email, that it's all copyrighted. I don't have to say what it is. I just need to say it's copyrighted, is in here. It's really simple to do as a template. I change it once a year by adding a little bit of this and that, and I change the date so that I can find it and I know which one I'm using.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I have a template for it's just I change once a year. So right now I'm on my 2024 copyright template, and
There it is.
everything gets the metadata embedded.
Yeah. And if you have keywords, when you end up with hundreds of thousands of photos, it's incredible how quickly that can happen.
Yeah.
If you have trouble finding something, you can do a keyword search or a date search. And
Very
even if
helpful.
for some reason the date is no longer in the file, it'll be in this metadata.
Mhm.
And if you do editorial work, or even if you don't do editorial work, but if you do editorial work, you have to put titles and descriptions. The editors need this.
Yeah.
And I mentioned before, having been found by a marketing department 10 years after I had photographed a job,
Mhm.
and they found me because my metadata was in my photo. So I have
Yeah, hugely
multiple phone
important.
numbers and multiple websites and multiple emails. So if one fails, there's no excuse. You're going to find me
Yeah, that's
because,
so important. I mean, that happened to me just yesterday. Somebody found me just
ah,
from metadata, so,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
so
it's the
important.
check. You
Mhm.
think about the checks of the future.
Absolutely. Mm.
So one of the things that people are always concerned about, how do you find clients and how do they find you? Well, you look for clients in part by knowing what they're looking at and looking for. Um, so this is a big, deep hole well that we could go into, and we're not going to do that. Um, but these are the places that a lot of clients spend their time.
Mhm.
So it behooves us to be there too. And you'll notice I right at the top, magazines and newspapers are not dead. They are not dead.
No,
There are
no.
newspapers and magazines making money and good money, despite how things have changed. They're still there. They're still ongoing. And they're not disappearing anytime soon, maybe 10 years, but right now they're still hiring people.
Right. Well, and I mean, um, trade magazines, at least for our industry, are huge.
They're huge. They pay well.
Yeah.
They pay better than normal editorial.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
they're
people
checks
don't realize
cash.
that. I mean, I'd rather work for a trade magazine than, one of the, more popular magazines. So,
Yeah, it's not always sexy what you're doing, but I will say there are a lot of photos on my website that I took for trade magazines.
yeah,
Well,
mine too.
or a picture of a dog on a calendar. I mean, there you
Exactly.
go. Excuse me. So most important, other than Instagram, is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is
Absolutely.
a gold mine,
Mhm.
not only for people to find you, but for you to find them. Now, this Grace Chon is a photographer.
Mhm.
She's very smart how she uses it. The LinkedIn, you can get a free account and you can load it with an incredible amount of information about yourself that is incredibly valuable. And you can certainly link back to your website and put your email and all that stuff on there, make it easy for people to get a hold of you. Um, but this is the place where business people go.
Mhm.
Um, Now, photo buyers and photo editors and communications people at firms, they will look at your Facebook and they will look at your link to your Instagram.
Instagram, yeah.
Yeah, but you can put way more information about yourself on this than anywhere else.
And I think there's a higher trust factor on
Oh
LinkedIn.
yeah,
Um, People take you more seriously on LinkedIn than they will on the other
yeah.
platforms. Yeah,
Well, they're more, I get a lot fewer women in bikinis contacting me through LinkedIn. And what that
there you
means
go.
is that their algorithm is trying to protect
Mhm.
their real client. I mean,
Yeah.
LinkedIn has a business model as a doing social media that's different from
Mhm.
Instagram and Facebook, where we are the product. We're what they're selling to their clients for
Right.
advertising, our data.
Right.
Uh, LinkedIn does some of that. So, they're not pure of heart in that way, but
Mhm.
they make their money through ads, through recruiters and HR people
Yeah.
putting ads in to find people. It's all about finding people. So it
Yeah.
has a certain corporate uh, tinge to it. It's
Mhm.
not really built for freelancers, but by God, you can use it. And when I'm trying to find people in architecture firms to contact, almost every architecture firm has a LinkedIn, um,
Absolutely.
and they list their people in there, and you can do
Mhm.
a search for marketing and communications in there, and those people will pop up.
Right. Yeah, that it's extremely helpful. And I mean, that's the primary resource for me
Yeah, me
when I'm
too.
for new business. So,
Me too. And
Right.
it's incredible how much you can use it before they say you got to start paying. I've only reached that limit once.
Oh, really? I went ahead
Oh
and just
yeah.
paid it. Yeah, I reached it a few times.
Yeah. I think it is now, is it $30 a month for the basic premium?
It's not much. Yeah, I think it's about
Yeah.
30. And
And you can
I
do
think
it.
you can find coupons for, and if you pay it annually, and
Yeah.
it's not, it's a really good investment.
Yeah. The other thing to know about LinkedIn, which is that it also, Microsoft, when they bought LinkedIn bought lynda.com. So now Microsoft owns all that. Lynda.com for technical training is about as good as it gets.
Hmm.
And I think it's still $25 a month. You can get on there 24/7 and look and learn how to do everything
Oh yeah,
having to do.
tutorials for everything.
And the tutorials are first rate.
Yeah.
It's really Linda, and there was a Linda. I think there still is a Linda. I don't think she's dead. Um, Hopefully she's on an island now. She's a graphic designer. Started it. It's probably in an island now, or one of her islands,
Hmm.
uh, enjoying life. But she's like Rob Haggard in that way. It was all about promoting the industry, making it better for people who work in industries to do their
Yeah.
job. Um, she helped invent high quality tutorials. So if you've only gotten your tutorials uh, on YouTube, there are good people on YouTube,
Hmm.
but there's a lot of bros out there. I include the women bros too.
Well, yeah, it's a whole different level on
Whole different. If you find somebody on YouTube that knows what they're talking about, and I have some colorists that I follow that are
Mhm.
really, really good, and they're really good teachers. Teaching is a skill, and so
Mm.
Linda just gets it, and they set the
Yeah,
tone for the best way to do online teaching. Anyway, that's
absolutely.
enough about that.
Yeah.
I get no percentage from that, but $25 a month is really cheap.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're getting toward the end here. So this is for marketing purposes. This guy knows what he's talking about. And for those of you who are viewing this on a phone, I'll just read it. You don't own your brand. A brand isn't a logo or packaging, it's a gut feeling. And when two people have the same gut feeling, you have a brand. So this guy is chief designer by Beats by Dre.
Hmm.
He was the former director of industrial design at Apple and an ex-partner at Pentagram, which is one of the most prestigious design firms in the known universe.
Hmm.
And they're international. So when I found this quote, it has never left my presentations because
Yeah, I think
it's,
that's really powerful.
you know,
That's excellent to have that understanding. I mean, there's kind of been a cliche in the advertising industry that a brand isn't what you say it is; it's what other people say it is.
yeah. So it's like when you hear people talk about your voice in photography, your
Hmm.
voice is your work.
Hmm.
You don't have to worry about finding your voice. It is your work. It's already done. You don't have to
Yeah.
go looking for it. It's the same with the brand. So you just put your best stuff out there. Uh, I also tell people in terms of people skills, for instance, and this has to do with branding and marketing. If you're going to shoot architectural photography, like this kind of shirt that I'm wearing here, this is a button-down shirt.
Hmm.
This is what a lot of architects wear. If I was going to go out, if my normal the way I dress is a tank top and all my tats showing, um, and I hadn't shaved for 3 days, and I wore flip-flops, and I'm getting having a meeting with somebody who makes skateboards. If it makes them comfortable, then you go like that. But if you're dressed like that and you go to talk to a designer or an architect, they're not comfortable. There's a certain
No.
theater about it. Um,
Yes.
and you have to pay attention to that, because if people are not comfortable, they're just not going to hire you, or they're not going to hire you a second time.
Yeah, and not only being comfortable with the client, but I found that you also have to be comfortable. I mean, you have to dress and appear correct for the location you're shooting.
Oh
Um,
yes. Oh yes.
um,
So there's times when you do want to dress in black. So there's a
mhm.
reason that people that shoot events and weddings dress in black, because or even people who are assistants often dress in
Right.
black. because people know right away, oh, this is a person involved with the photography.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you need that because time is money. And you want to keep people if you're in public, you're not in a enclosed space like a studio.
Mhm.
You have to interact with ordinary people, and whatever you can do to make that work is to your advantage. You got to do it.
Yeah. Well said.
So this is also part of the marketing. We've just kind of gone over this, so I'm not going to go over it again. We are almost done here with this, with my slides anyway. Marketing keeps going when you're done.
Yes.
You know, your various kinds of follow-up, including posting on Instagram and tagging people. The people appreciate that.
Mhm.
I do want to say one thing about social media here, which is people see everything. This is a real post. This guy, well, I think the headline says it all. So on the threads, you could see his relatives, like his brother, saying, Mac, I don't think this is a good idea. So of course they found him and they got him. So what I tell my students is, if you have a picture of yourself on Facebook, which is more likely this is going to appear with you with a beer bong, you take that off of there, because people look at this stuff, you know. I mean, this guy was a little clueless. He's clearly not a photographer trying to market himself, but it's I find this a very effective reminder. So there's
Absolutely.
nothing I'm embarrassed about any longer on my Facebook. And the way I handle Instagram, people do it their own way. I have nothing on there that is not at a professional, no photos that are not at a professional level.
Yeah. I'm the same way. It's strictly a business channel.
Right. So, and we really are almost done here, but the last thing I show, and we're going to go through this very quickly, is
Okay. Sure.
here's the history of photography equipment. And all through, people have been complaining it's the end of photography, or past the beginning, where it was very technical, right? So here's the first camera. This is a camera obscura. It's not even, you know, this is a thing for projecting on a wall. Here's the first daguerreotype. Notice the lens. That's it. It's just a hole, and you flip a thing open, right? Here's an early photo studio. Now we're getting into technical cameras, right? So they're accessible to anybody, but you kind of have to know what you're doing, right? This is 1860s, something like that, 1850s. So here's the end of commercial photography as we know it. This is when we all lost our jobs. Kodak, you can take a picture with one of their cameras and sell your own livestock without the need of a photographer. The reason is because the early cameras would come preloaded with film. You take your picture, you send the whole thing back to Kodak. They send you the photos and another camera preloaded with film.
Yeah.
And here's your brownie. Same kind of thing. So who's their marketing to? They're not marketing to professionals here. This is the end of commercial photography as we know it. This really was the end of commercial photography, except that most people thought this is the first Leica, by the way. Well, this is a toy. I mean, what is this, 35 millimeter? What kind of image are you going to get off of this, right? And so two things happened. Was one, nobody took it seriously as a professional photographer. And the other thing was, well, this camera and all the cameras that came afterwards ate their lunch. Now, this isn't to say that large format cameras didn't, you know, this is 1926, 7, something like that. I mean, Norman McGrath, right? When digital came in, he stopped using a 4x5. He went to digital because he got it when it became good enough, right?
Yeah.
Right. So here's an ad for Leica. Again, what is this? You know, this is not a picture of a person using it. This is the kind of picture you can take of yourself out in the daylight. Oh, it gets worse. Rosemary Clooney, big star. You know, Kodacolor. Now you're taking pictures in color. Oh my God, it's over. It's over. Oh, and Polaroid. What a toy. Polaroid, by the way. Polaroid was if not the biggest, one of the biggest inspirations for Steve Jobs, because it was all about making it easy. It just worked. You didn't need to know anything.
Right.
And here it is.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And there is the Polaroid camera itself. I love that they made this juxtaposition.
Hmm.
It's easy to use your first camera. This tells you how old this is. This is from the 50s or early 60s, right? So your first camera might have looked like that, right? That's an early Brownie kind of a thing. By the way, it's lovely. These cameras, you can buy them now almost anywhere for $25. I have
Yeah,
a couple.
yeah,
Um, and then Apple with the iPhone. That was, again, the end of photography. But as we know, that's not the case. So now we really are down to the last couple of slides. So this is Johnny Ive, who was the head of design at Apple.
hmm
There's the object, the actual product itself, and then there's all that you learned. What you learned is as tangible as the product itself, but much more valuable because that's your future. That is heavy. That's heavy stuff there.
yeah,
So it's not something that you want to be thinking about every day, but it is the reality of
sure.
doing this kind of work. And this is the last slide. For those of you who know who Hunter S. Thompson is, you wouldn't expected him to reference God, but he knew what he was talking about.
That's great.
And I love that. That is an actual pigeon with an actual camera. This was
Hmm.
something they tried, I think, in the First World War as a
Yeah,
surveillance cameras. Google it. You'll see it's real, and you
that's
can see the
nice.
photos. They weren't high resolution. Anyway, so I'm going to stop the share, and we can go back to chatting.
Sounds good. Thank you, Barry.
You bet.
Well, that was very valuable information. It was,
Oh, thank
a
you.
lot of both aesthetics as well as good hard business information. And I think one of the misconceptions about what we do um, is that people ask me if I'm a freelance photographer. I'll give you as an example, and I never know how to answer that because
I know.
I say, well, I'm self-employed, but but
I know.
I'm not willy-nilly out there shooting whatever for whomever, and so and most of what I do is really business. There's the percentage of time that I spend actually shooting is not the greatest percentage of my time
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
spend working.
I think the only people that spend a lot of time shooting are incredibly successful and have a studio and a staff.
Uh-huh.
They could shoot 2, 3, 4 times a week if necessary,
Yeah.
because they're not doing anything except taking pictures.
Yeah. I mean, back when I used to have a commercial studio and assistants and was shooting film and didn't have to, deal with the images after I shot them, um, I could shoot 3 days a week
Yeah.
and be just fine.
Yeah.
I can't do that anymore. If I do, uh, it's really agonizing.
Well,
It's almost too much.
well, and if by default, architectural photographers are location photographers,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah,
um,
you've always got to be someplace else, and that makes it all that much harder. But I think that one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about professional photography is not understanding the fact that to be successful in it, you've got to be a really good business person.
you have to. You
And
just have to. You
it,
might
we
get by
take it
for a
for
few
granted,
years.
yeah, that you're a successful artist, but that's not enough.
Yeah. And it's going to go up and it's going to go down. And some of the evidence of that is when and this, I'm in no way slamming anybody, but in workshops and schools, there's very roughly 3 kinds of people that teach workshops, and particularly in schools,
Hmm.
4-year or art schools, whatever it is. There's people like myself who teach, who have active careers, and a lot of people do this.
Hmm.
And they teach as a kind of give back, because if you're only teaching one course a quarter or a year, you're
Yeah.
not making there's not much money in it.
No.
Then there are people who are easing out of their careers,
Right.
or have been eased out of their career, and a lot of photojournalists have been eased out because
Yeah.
it's been a very rough 20 years for photojournalists. But photojournalists know how to shoot everything. everything. It's incredible. There is nothing they don't know how to shoot because that's the gig.
Yeah.
And then there are people who teach who have master's degrees, and many of those people have master's degrees in fine art,
Hmm.
among other things. It's not always fine art, but very often fine art. And those are people who knew that they would never make a living as a fine art photographer. And this is not a slam on them. So they were, had the degree that allows them to teach. And painters do this, writers do this. It's a fine and
Oh,
honorable
absolutely.
tradition. Poets, the money's just not in poetry like it used to
Yeah.
be, as we all know. So this is not a slam, but what it means is that those people with master's degrees have never worked commercially, have never worked editorially, have never shot a wedding or an event, and they don't know anything about contracts, marketing, negotiating, or any of those things because they never had to do it. I mean, I had a friend who was a fine art photographer who has a master's degree, and she worked as an assistant for a year, and she said, that was not for me. It reaffirmed her practice.
Okay.
And so when people go to school expecting to learn any business practices, they don't get them. And some of the art schools do a good job. I think RISD maybe does. Some four-year colleges do a good job. Some two-year colleges have business courses. I know Santa Monica City College has a really good business course because I knew the guy that did it. But it's rare. And again, not to slam anybody, when people graduate with advanced degrees or even doctors and lawyers, they don't get any business training either.
No.
They just get thrown out into the business world, and they may not be setting themselves up to work as an entrepreneur, but they don't know anything about the culture that they're about to step into. They just know what they were taught in school. So how do you behave in an office? What's going on here? So they're in shock too. And you talk to any doctor or lawyer, they'll tell you there was a big learning curve for them once they left school.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And it kind of leads me to another point, which is kind of an inconvenient point for some people. And that's the fact that as I've talked with members of AIAP, people like yourself, it's a tiny percentage of our membership that have actually gone to school for photography. It's a very small percentage, and most of them come from related fields, which yours is a related field, and other fields. But the commonality that everybody who's been in business for any length of time is that they have this business sense and experience and acumen that has kept them afloat. And it's just a given that they have the talent to do it, but the competition is not always enough.
Yeah, and the competition is very intense.
Yeah,
there are fewer jobs and more photographers every year.
There are.
But there are people that make it. You see young people, you just have to be willing, particularly young people who have more energy. It's a little easier for them to work really hard. But I remember a talk, and God help me, I cannot remember the name of this woman. She was a fine art photographer, but she did occasional commercial work. And somebody asked her about, assistants going on to becoming a photographer. And she said, well, she had two kinds of assistants. She had the assistants that went to the party, and then she had the assistants that didn't go to the party. And those are the people that made it as photographers because they went home after the gig and worked.
Oh.
Because that was the standard routine, but still true to some degree, is you assist for a few years and then you go out on your own. And hopefully you're working for photographers who are acting as mentors, not as competitors. It's not always the case, but that's the standard. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, excellent point. Well, Barry, your information has been really valuable, and I hope that the people that watch this and listen to it, I'm hoping that they'll appreciate it as much as I have. This has been very enlightening for me, and I appreciate you sharing it with us so graciously and generously.
Well, I appreciate you, Alan, and all that you're doing. And AIAP it's more than just a kind of directory. You really stepped up to support the industry. So I appreciate that in a big way.
Well, thank you. I'm hoping that we can play a little stronger role in helping educate people and move people along towards success in the industry. I think there's room for anybody that wants to really be a part of this.
Oh, yeah.
Because
We're all in this together.
yeah, I think so. I appreciate it. Well, Barry, thank you. And to all those who are listening, thank you. And please consider subscribing to the channel. And we hope to see you again on the next podcast.
This has been another episode of A Photographer's Life. If you've enjoyed this program, please let us know by liking this episode and subscribing to this channel. A Photographer's Life is brought to you by the Association of Independent Architectural Photographers. This episode is copyrighted and may not be used in full or in part without the written permission of the AIAP. Please join us again soon for another inside look at the world of professional architectural photography.